gives you X-ray eyes. It does. Hey, everybody. You know this gentleman. It's Anderson Cooper. Well, you have done something that I admire enormously. You have taken upon yourself to address something that a lot of people in our modern culture don't want to think about, and that is grief and the process of grief, not just the feeling itself, but how you work through it. Everybody in their own ways and helpful ways people might think about their grief, and also be able to hear other people process their grief publicly. You're in season 4 of your podcast. Starts October 28th. All There Is. And I understand you have news to share about that.
So I've traditionally done like 8 podcast episodes because I get kind of overwhelmed. You've been a guest on the podcast, you know I'm prone to sort of like getting weepy. And so I usually end it after like 8 episodes, but this season we're actually gonna be doing them all year long, so there'll be a lot more episodes to listen to. And also we're launching a companion program, which is gonna be a weekly streaming interactive show about grief on the C9 mobile app, which is coming out in a couple of weeks, and it's also on a website, c9.com/allthereis, which rolls off the tongue.
Sure.
But it's going to be a weekly show where I talk to people about their experiences with grief. I'll play voicemails and videos from podcast listeners. I'll interact with people in a live comment section. I just think grief can feel so lonely. I mean, it certainly has for me. But I've learned a lot from you, talking to you about it. And the idea that while grief can feel so lonely, the things I've learned that help are talking about it and listening to the experiences of others who have gone through it, like you. And those listening to others has changed my life. It has saved my life in many ways, and it's given me a new life. And I'm so grateful. And I want to share that with a lot of other people who are in grief. And so I like this idea, not only of doing a podcast all year long, but having like a weekly show. It's going to be kind of a niche thing, obviously. I don't know. A lot of people want to be like, yeah, I'm going to watch the grief show tonight.
Well, here's the thing, is that, as I've told you before, how much, when people often say that they enjoyed our conversation, and I always say I admire, I admire that you're taking this on.
Stephen was the second guest on the first season of my podcast, and it's one of the best conversations ever.
Well, the thing is that I admire what you're doing, but I also worry about you a little bit, because we're friends, and while I admire what you're doing, I'm just curious. This is a lot to take on. You're a very empathetic person. You do see everything with soft eyes, and for podcasts, soft ears.
Yeah.
And do you find it exhausting or exhilarating?
I find it both. I've listened to about 6,000 voicemails from podcast listeners about their grief, and it's the most profound experience of my life. And I routinely call up people who have sent me direct messages, and I speak to them on the phone. I spoke to a lady 2 weeks ago, probably for about an hour. Her 17-year-old special needs son died in her arms in her apartment, and I don't know her, but she reached out to me, and I asked her if I could call her, and we spoke for an hour. And these are the most real conversations you can possibly have, and it's nice, instead of people coming up to me in the street and being like, hey, can we have a selfie? You're really pale, it's interesting. It's nice to have people come up and say, you know what, I listened to your podcast, my child just died, or my dad just died, and what Andrew Garfield said on the podcast really helped, that the wound is the only route to the gift, or you talking about learning to love the thing you most wish had never happened, which is obviously a concept that kind of blew my mind. But I didn't allow myself to grieve as a kid, because I was so overwhelmed when my dad died when I was a kid, and then my brother died by suicide, that I shut down, and I lived for 40 years without allowing myself to feel the pain of the grief. But the irony is, by not allowing myself to, and you taught me this, by not allowing myself to feel the pain of it, I also didn't allow myself ever to feel joy, true joy, because you can't have one without the other. And it's only now in the last 2 years and my voice still shakes, which I'm sorry about, but it's only in the last 2 years by feeling this grief and this sadness that I've been able to feel joy. And I have a lot to feel joy about, because I've got these 2 little boys who are just incredible. And one of them's backstage right now watching. And so it is the greatest gift. you kind of gave it to me early on, and other people have given it to me in drips and drabs every interview I've done. And the incredible thing is, the good news is, you can still have a relationship with somebody who's died. And I have a relationship with my dad that's extraordinary, and I know him better now than I ever knew him when he was alive, when I was a little kid. And I feel my dad. I feel him.
That's beautiful. Thank you for sharing that with us. I know that's not always easy. Thank you for doing that. Again, I admire what you're doing.
You can edit all that stuff out.
No, we're getting rid of that. But please tell me that you end the evening with a Three Stooges marathon. I want you to also get a few laughs.
Actually, I'm not even going to tell you what I watched. You're going to be like, that's...
What do you watch?
I'm watching Gomorrah right now. Have you watched Gomorrah?
No.
There's 6 seasons. It's this incredibly ultra-violent, crazy show about the Italian mob. It's so good, though. I find it diverting. It takes me out of, like, my day-to-day life, you know?
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. The new show is All There Is Live. It premieres October 30th. Anderson Cooper. Thank you, Anderson. We'll be right back with Mason Thames.